ago during our first batch of workshop. So I actually had a lot of plans to come to Dhaka and do a lot of shopping. I guess I will postpone it to the next one. So anyway, as you can see in the schedule, I will be introducing what malware, what botnet is, the motivation behind this phenomenon. So I will basically share the slides, share the screen instead. Give me a moment. So I will talk for about 1 hour plus. Then we will I will open up the session for Q&A here. We can have a discussion on this topic. Let's keep it informal. You can stop me anytime, ask me any questions. Let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. So I rarely do online presentation. I think this is my 4th online presentation in my career. So please apologize if you find it a bit awkward. Okay. So I presume that everybody here uses the internet. Internet has become a very critical, crucial part of our life. It has become as important as water, as electricity, as telecommunication, and so on. It is must-have service that all of us cannot stay away from. I think actually we spend more time online than offline, I presume. I guess everybody in the room and anywhere else, have you ever been offline even a day? Is it possible to be offline for I'm going offline for the whole day? Is it possible? Do you think you have ever done that? I think it's very rare because we are so connected. We have to check our emails. We have to buy stuff online. We have to do transactions online. We have to have a conversation with our girlfriends or boyfriends online. Now we have relationship online. Everything seems to be online, right? So internet, what it used to be back in 1977, right? This is ARPANET, predecessor to what we have today, the internet. If you can see, that's like what, less than 200 posts, and about 10 organizations, including Stanford, Xerox, MIT, and so on, right? This is back in 1977. This is how the internet looked like. To what it is today, to a global audience network. Any idea what the global population is now? Can anybody tell me what's the global population? It's about 7.5 or 7.6 billion. Out of that, about 5 billion people are online. Right? When I gave the similar talk about 4 years ago, at about 7.4 billion people, only 2 billion people were online. Now, more than half, so more about 60% are online. So you can imagine the impact or the importance of internet on our daily life, the way we carry out business and so on and so forth. Because of that, crime has also evolved in tandem to the growth of the internet. As a lot of business, a lot of people go online, so have the cyber criminals. They have found the internet a very interesting, very easy, very lucrative platform to carry out their crimes. So what is cybercrime? There's two facets to cybercrime. One is using the internet to carry out or to commit a crime, like identity theft, hacking, malware, botnet, etc., etc. And also facilitating existing or traditional criminal activities using the internet, like stalking. Those days, when somebody If you have a crush on somebody, what do? You would follow the person, you drive to their home, park outside and see what the person is doing. What do you do nowadays? You go on Facebook, right? You check the profile of the person you like. You check what they are posting, right? What are the latest photos they have, or what are the latest activity they are doing, right? Same as what it used to be, but you just move from drive-by to social media. Stealing information. Those days, stealing information is done, for example, dumpster diving. You would go through the trash of somebody, right? You would try to go through their bills, their documents that they've thrown away to build a profile or get information about the person. That has evolved online to basically getting information from social media, from emails, from phishing attempt, and so on and so forth. And of course, pornography, human trafficking, etc. and so on. Right? Of course, the focus of this workshop is on malware, botnets, and so on. Why do you think the cybercrime incident has pretty much taken over the traditional crime in the last few years? There is more cybercrime being committed compared to traditional crime. The reason for that is internet is anonymous. You can hide yourself anywhere in the world and commit the crime anywhere else in the world. Nobody is going to stop you, right? Furthermore, we have issues with cyber laws. Different countries have different level of laws to address cybercrime, right? Many countries only in the past few years have come up with privacy acts, computer crime acts, and so on and so forth. And they differ from country to country. And also, most transactions are now carried out online, e-commerce, right? Shopping online, right? The power of social media, right? We can see the damage it's doing now in respect to the COVID-19 disease. So much damage is being done by social media. I would say that social media is a much bigger disease than the COVID-19 disease itself. So on the internet, nobody knows you're a cat or whatever you are. So it's difficult for anybody to catch you. So let's talk about the early years of malware. So before we get to that, what is malware? Malware stands for malicious software. What is malicious software? Basically any piece of software or code that does some form of damage. It could be damage to your file, damage to your information, loss of information, loss of reputation, and so on. Some form of damage in some respect. But if you look at the early years of malware, if you look at first virus, not really a virus, it's an experiment to design how computer can move from one computer, a program can move from one computer to another computer autonomously. That is a behavior of malware, but it was an experiment to see how a program can move from one host to another host. That was back in 1971, when the internet was still in its infancy. Then in 74, we have ware. A self-replicating program can make multiple copies of itself on a computer until the computer becomes very slow. It's called rabbit because it's taken from the word rabbit, and rabbit reproduces very rapidly, so that's the name for that virus. In 1982, we have App Cloner. It was written by a 15-year-old kid. One of the earliest widespread self-replicating virus to infect PCs. Brain boot sector virus is the first virus that I had experience with. I think if you are coming from the MS-DOS era back in the late 80s, where when you boot up you don't get your Windows interface, you get a DOS console. I think many of you are from that era. So how many of you have seen or had close encounter with brain boot virus? Anybody? No one? think there should be some of you. This virus doesn't do anything. It just infects the computer, your boot sector. When you boot your computer, it will show message called Denzuko. Then it will go into your operating system and nothing else happens. You can use your operating system as normal as you were using it before. But the thing is that it became global news. It was written by a Pakistani kid, I think 14 years old. And that comes to question, why kids nowadays don't do this kind of stuff anymore? No longer innovative, at least writing in malware, right? They are too busy with their mobile phone, I guess. That was one of the first virus. It just displays a message. The writer of the virus feels good about becoming world news and all that, but there was not an intention to cause damage. Then in the same year we had Trojan, a PC write Trojan. I have also have encountered with PC writer. What it does is that once it infects your install the program, it will just wipe out your whole file, your whole operating system. Then we have Morris, the first worm virus, and then in early 90s was also another popular virus called Michelangelo. Michelangelo basically is also called a time bomb. What it does is, on 6th of March, if your computer is infected with this virus, on 6th of March, it will make all your office files, nullify all your office files. That means all your office files, Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on and so forth, will become 0 bytes. All your office documents presentation will become 0 bytes, and you have no way to recover it. So this once again was also a global news. Newspapers had headlines. Do not switch on your computer on 6th of March. Go offline. Right? So you can switch on your computer on 5th of March. Don't switch it on 6th of March. Switch it on again on 7th of March. Then everything will be fine. Until the following year, 6th of March. Right? So it only caused damages on that particular day. Fortunately, they found solution for that to remove it using antivirus and so on. And later in 1999 was Melissa virus, first mass email virus. I hope nobody is still using Outlook email client, because this is a fantastic playground or fantastic way of virus to take advantage of Outlook's macro capabilities. What Melissa virus did was it used macros, basically it's a BB macro, and infected Outlook, and that macro basically sent the virus to all those in the address book that is listed, and it just propagated along the way as it went on. So this is how the early years of the virus was. Then the era of the beginning of the internet. I think all of you would have heard the I love you word. Very popular. It was big news back in the year 2000 and 2001. I love you virus is basically a worm that spreads through emails with the subject I love you. You may ask, why do they call it I love you worm? Very simple, in those days when you receive an email from someone that says I love you, especially guys, you'll be curious, right? Who is this person? Send me an I love you email. Do I have a secret admirer somewhere? I must open the email and check it out. I must open the attachment. So when you open the attachment, nothing happens, right? So you just forget about it and move on with your life. But what happened is that it actually infects your computer and starts infecting other computers in your local area network, right? And what happened is that it will start overloading your network with high traffic, bringing your network to a standstill, right? imagine businesses could not run their daily operation because the network is congested. They do not know what was going on. Right? It took months before they actually found solution for this. And similarly, in 2001, anachronica virus. This email says Anna Kournikova was very popular. She was pretty tennis player, and this email said we have emails of her, pretty images of this person. Why don't you check it out? But when you open the extension, it actually infects your computer. Of course, we have Slammer one, Caber virus, Cookface, take advantage of Facebook, one of the first social media virus, Configure worm. It's a combination of the word configure and figure. It does some damage based in on Slammer. It appeared in 2003. Slammer is similar to worm, right? And more recently, we have evolved or moved to Botnet, which is more state-sponsored, sophisticated, it's portable. In 2010, we had Stuxnet worm. Stuxnet basically attacked Iran's nuclear program. Stuxnet worm infects nuclear warheads. Imagine being able to control nuclear warhead. That was a dangerous time. Then we have Zeus, introduced in 2007, another type of botnet. CryptoLocker, one of the earliest ransomware program. Back off in 2014. Malware was designed to infect point of sale systems. Basically, most point of sale systems, the one you find at the cashier counter, has gone online, now Windows based. So the cashier sometimes may use it to browse the internet and so on. So once it's infected, it will start stealing information from your system by doing, what should I say, key logging. You record all the key logging done on the POS system, and it will send it back to the malware owner. Right? Cerber, what do you call it? It's another type of malware, but it was not very widespread. And of course, we all heard about WannaCry ransomware. This, as its name says, once you get infected, it will encrypt your files. Once your file is encrypted, you have no access to the files that are encrypted. And if you want the key back to decrypt the files, you need to pay $300. And you don't pay $300 by transferring to their bank account or doing online transfer. You have to pay $300 equivalent of Bitcoin. Why Bitcoin? Because there's no way you can trace who this person is, right? If the person who wrote the virus said you transfer the money to my account, then this person is not very smart, right? So by transferring $300 worth of Bitcoin, there's no way you can be traced, and you got the money. But would the victims be able to recover the files? That's a big question. I can share one incident that happened in Penang. Penang has a lot of multinational companies like Intel, Western Digital, Hewlett Packard, and so on and so forth. So it's one similar company. They started giving laptops to their operational staff, supervisors. So this supervisor took the laptop back home, went online, gave it to the kids. The kids used it, played with it, got infected with ransomware, WannaCry. She brought it back to her company, connected to their corporate network. It propagated to all their servers. Unfortunately, this company uses Windows servers, right? And it locked or encrypted all the files in most of the servers. Production came to a halt. And the amount they had to pay to recover back access to the files was $20 million. And I have no idea whether they got access back to the files or not, but they have lost $20 million. So it's that easy. So you can see that number of malware's growth from 2010 up to 2019. We have so many solutions out there. We have antivirus, anti-malware, robust firewall. But do you notice the trend of malware growth has not slowed down? It seems to be accelerating. Why? If we have mechanisms in place to protect or prevent malware from infecting or infiltrating our system, why is the number of growth, the growth of malware has not stopped? Any idea? It will be more interactive from there. Anyway. So this is for the past 1 year, or about 1 year ago, right? We can see new malwares, right? Every month there are new infections happening throughout the year. Why? Social engineering. One of the main reasons why number of malware has not gone down is because of social engineering. Right? Social engineering is a process where we influence users to get our malware into their machine. One of the most popular way of doing social engineering is phishing, right? Emails, distributing malware through email, right? Why do we become victim of social engineering? One is because curious, right? We want to find out what's happening. You know, like that I love you work. You know, who sent me this email? Courtesy, compliance. If the email looks like coming from your boss, you want to follow. Gullibility. You have won $1 million. Please click this link. Right? Gullibility is your email account, your bank account needs to be updated. Please click on this link and update your username and password. So many of those unsuspecting victims will trust this email, will click on it, fill in the information, user ID and password, and the web interface will say thank you. But what you have done is you've basically given your bank credentials to a cybercrime criminal. Of course, great. You have won $1 million. Please click on this link to claim your prize. You click on it, you click 100 times, I guess, on that link. Thoughtlessness. You now think about, what is this? Is this authentic? Is this real? You just click on it. Shyness, you don't want to check. Right? You don't want to check with someone who may understand this more. Right? You're shy to check whether I should do this or not. And apathy, don't care. Right? These are the reasons why social engineering has been very successful in what we call propagating malware. Very, very successful. The essence of social engineering, the bad guy will always follow the path of least resistant and most profitable, and which is the user of the system. We, the user of the system, are the easiest to be hacked. How many of you use the torrent? uTorrent, BitTorrent to download materials for research? I go to uTorrent to download materials for research. Right? You can even download Linux distros from torrent site. But the thing is that a lot of time you may want to get access to this software to be very expensive, so what's the alternative? Torrent. So you go to torrent, you go to Pirate Bay, you get the torrent file, add it to your client, download that software, and you install it for free instead of paying $1,000. But the fact is, this installation, this program or installer that you've downloaded, has an embedded malware. There are tools out there where you can take your malware, take the actual installer, let's say Microsoft Office, you can merge them And once it's merged, it creates another installer, right, which is called Microsoft Office Installer. So you download this, you launch it, and in the background, it will install the malware while installing your Microsoft Office, right? So, but you don't see it. You don't see it telling, hey, I'm also downloading malware. Are you okay with that? No, it doesn't do that, right? So, sometimes you also may see this installer have some background music, right? Some techno music playing. Why do they have techno music? That's basically to distract you. They say, enjoy the music while we install our malware. Thank you, right? So, we are the weakest point. When your operating system or your malware says, hey, this potentially looks like a malware, I recommend that you don't go ahead with this. What do? Hey, you get lost, right? I want to get this installed. Don't advise me, right? So we all do that, even I do that, right? When you want a certain thing badly, and it's pirated, that most probably comes with malware embedded, you still bypass whatever mechanism that's available in your system. And the malware gets into your system, into your computer, right? So, in addition to that, the sophistication versus the knowledge required for anybody to carry out attack using malware has gone down over the year, right? Those days you need to be a coder, you need to understand how network works, you need to understand how operating system works, you need to understand how executable works, right? Now, anybody can become a malware, anybody can hack. Just like the Air Asia slogan, everyone can fly, now everyone can hack. Right? You can even go to YouTube and say, how do I carry out attacks? There are step-by-step guides for you to do that. How do I write my malware? There are instructions for you to download and generate your malware by just setting configuration, clicking certain values and all that. Here you go, malware. Right? It's unique to you, but you don't have to know any coding. Right? So, that's one second reason why malware propagation is still rising. More people are writing malware, more people are becoming victims to social engineering. Right? So, some of the type of malwares, right, spyware, I think you all know, it infects your computer and it feeds on your activity that you do on your computer, sends it back to the owner of the spyware. It will then, based on what you do, it will start pushing ads to your machine. So if you've been searching, like for me, I'm bored. So when I'm using the browser, let's say I go online and I use the camera like what I'm doing now, text this guy is bored. So maybe we should push advertisement about hair growth medication. Right? That kind of happened to me when I was on Facebook many years back. When I had hair, the type of ads I used to get was, okay, and the moment I shaved my head, I started getting growth hair supplement. You want more hair? Please go to this link, buy this product and so on. Right? I said, I'm not interested in this ad. It still kept on pushing this kind of ad. So, that is voluntary, but you have malware inside your computer that could be monitoring and looking at, spying at your activities, at what you are, who you are, and so on, and collect information about you, right? Trojan Horse may look like a legitimate file, but it will sit on your computer, give backend access to the owner of this Trojan Horse, and they can do whatever they want. Typically, if you're a programmer, if you work for a company, you sometimes may leave a Trojan Horse in the software you build. Just in case they fire you, right? They want to carry out some damage, you can do it from remotely, right? But please don't do that. Virus, a popular term, right? Every PC users have come across, I've come across, I'm sure you have come across. A virus can enter your PC using external hard drive, USB stick, downloading software, many ways for it to infect. They can destroy your data, you can, damage your content. There's even hardware-based viruses, malwares nowadays. If you've heard about Meltdown and Spectre virus, these viruses can actually damage Intel-based chipsets physically. So that means you can't do anything with the chipset anymore, right? It infects your operating system, then it damages this particular chipset. This happened about 2 years ago. They say they have a patch for it, but no, we have no idea what it really works. Worm, as the name says, worm propagates. It propagates through your network, moves around, replicates, infects other networks, moves on, and causes damage to your network particularly. Scareware, as the name suggests, it infects your computer. Suddenly you see a pop-up of an antivirus software. It says that you have scanned your machine, you find about 200 malwares on your computer. Right? It looks like a professionally designed, looks like a real anti-malware software, antivirus software, and it says that there is 200 malwares found on your computer. You need to start to clean the infected files. But in fact, there is no virus on your computer. These 200 virus that it said it found is actually fake. It's trying to scare you so that you click start. When you do that, you're giving permission to the software to install further background tools, other malwares, and so on and so forth. Right? Obviously, adware. I think all of us have seen this before. You go to certain websites, right? They will say you must give permission for you to continue to watch a video. So you say, okay. What it does, it installs an extension. Let's say for a Chrome browser or Firefox, and from time to time it will start, pop-ups start appearing from nowhere, right? Of course, ransomware, the most recent threat that came from malware, and of course, the trend of ransomware is over. Now, malware writers have moved on to something more interesting, Bitcoin mining. Now, malware infects your computer, sits on your computer quietly, and when the CPU is free, it will use your CPU resources to do mining, right? So the owner of these Bitcoin miners will mine and push to the wallet of the owner of this Bitcoin miner. So they make billions of dollars. So that seems to be the current trend. I don't know what's next that will be used with the malware. Of course, bot. So the discussion of this workshop will be mostly on bot. Bot are basically malwares that infects computers, hosts all around the world, using social engineering and other, and also by taking advantage of vulnerabilities in system. And what do you call this? And it is used for carrying out DDoS attacks, to carry out spams. You know, the spams you receive, almost all of them are sent by bots, right? 95% of the emails that you receive are spam. Who creates the spam? Not somebody sitting in an office sending email to everybody one by one. No, these are all bots all around the world that has been instructed by the bot master to send out these messages. If you check the spams sender email, you'll see it's some random unique string which cannot be emailed back, right? This basically comes from hosts that are infected all around the world. So, botnet are a major threat to the internet. Why? Because this seems to be the current trend. It infects computers all around the world, right? And every time there's an attempt to take it down, new bots evolve. New bots come out of by redesigning the old bots and making them more resilient to take down. Right? Evolution of botnets. It used to be vandalism, financial gain, right? Almost $100 billion about 2 years ago, right? Much more than that. E-crime market, You have raw material, which is your infected machines, goods, you pay them, then you can buy, sell, and trade bots. The botnet market is one of the biggest illegal industry in the world, offline and online, right? You can basically reapply this over and over again with very minimal investment, right? For example, in Malaysia we have two banks, Maybank and CIMB. They are rivals actually, and we all know that online transactions are everything nowadays. Everybody does transactions using online banking services. So let's assume that CIMB is doing much better than Maybank, right? The reputation is great. Maybank is not happy with that, and Maybank wants to damage the reputation of CIMB. How can I go about damaging CIMB's reputation? Is there any way that I can get spy into the organization, or make a thought? Can I what do you call this? Drop a bomb on the bank? No, you can't do that. It doesn't work anymore. So what can I do? You go and see a bot master. The bot master that controls bots all around the world. Hundreds of thousands compromised computers all around the world, which I have control over. So Maybank goes and sees this bot master, and the bot master basically will say that, okay, there's one way of damaging the reputation of CMB. At the end of the month, when it is salary time, we can make their system unavailable. And Maybank asks, how can we do that? The way to do that is basically, I can give instruction to all the bots that has infected all the computers all around the world to simply access CMB website on 30th of the month. So when all these bots are simply accessing the server on 30th of that month, the service, CMB's online service, will become saturated, will become busy, will become overloaded with fake requests from malwares or bots that has infected machines, computers all around the world. So a real user will try to access CMB's website. He will say page timeout. Why timeout? Because the server is busy servicing fake requests. So Maybank said, okay, go and do that. So the bot master will say, okay, I'm going to try for 2 hours. It's going to cost you $50,000. He says, okay, try. And on 30th afternoon, the bot master sends a required http get cmb.com.my. All the bots will receive this action or this command, and they will basically carry out a simple HTTP request. Simple, just get the main page, that's it. And the server does not know whether this is a real user or a bot or a fake user. It will start responding, right? It starts servicing, giving responses to all these infected machines. And service goes down, becomes national news. CMB online service is down. Reputation is damaged. So Maybank says, I'll do this for another 2 days. Okay? So their reputation will be gone. Maybank will have a better reputation, and this is how then the bot master would have made millions of dollars from this single activity. And he can just replicate it. Since the bot's are already there, anybody who comes and asks, I want to do this, he just sends the command, that's it. We make millions of dollars out of it. Sounds like a very good money-making business, isn't it? Please don't do it. Okay? Botnet is also used to steal sensitive information, infects your computer, and starts collecting credit card information, bank account numbers, and so on and so forth. Right? You may think that, how much can all this personal information cost? If you look here, the cost to acquire a social security information, date of birth, or residential address is $3 per piece of information. If I have 1,000 or 100,000 information about this, it's $300,000, right? So you can imagine, sale of personal information on just 50 credit or debit card can generate earnings between $250K to $1 million. So you can imagine the immensity of the profit that can be made out of this activity, right? So the bot masters do not do this for long term. They know that the authority is on their tail. So they will do this for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and they retire. When they retire, they will make their botnet open source. You can actually get a lot of all these bot source codes online. Like WannaCry, you can get the source code out there, right? Some of the botnet architecture, you can get it online. These are all retired bots. You can take them, modify them, and rebuild your bot army, right? So once again, please don't do it. So the kind of crime that can be carried out using bots and malware, and the annual revenues that these criminals make. You can see illegal online market, 860 billion. I got that, 500 billion. Data trading, 160 billion. Crimeware as a service, 1.6 billion. Ransomware, 1 billion. Right? We're talking about 1.5 billion of revenues by the criminals. Right? So, looks like a very lucrative business. So let's talk about a bit on the botnet architecture. So you typically will have bot master, and you have bots, infected machines, which will recruit more bots and start growing the bot army, right? You'll have more and more. The more bots you have, the merrier it is, right? We will talk a bit more the taxonomy, the behavior, C&C model, communication protocol, the botnet activity. I may not go into detail some of this. I will share the slides though. The attacking behavior starts with infecting new hosts using social engineering, distribution of malicious emails, stealing personal information, keylogger, network sniffer, phishing, spam, DDoS. These are some of the activities of activity behavior. C&C, there are 3 types of botnet: centralized, P2P, and randomized. Weakest link of the botnet because elimination of botnet, botmaster takes out the botnet. So basically, a C&C model, you have one central point that controls all this. If this is gone, then all these bots become orphaned. They are there, they're saying, I'm waiting for instruction from my botmaster. Where is he? He's dead. So what do? So you're orphaned forever until your computer is reformatted or it has been removed by antivirus. You'll just sit there and do nothing because there's no one to receive instruction from. So it's easy to set up, but very easy to eliminate. It is also risky because all the bots can leak back to the bot master. That means the bot master can be traced, can be caught by the authority. Peer-to-peer model is more difficult. It's similar to how a torrent network or overlay networks are designed. The bot master talks to some of the peers, we call it super peers, and these peers will talk to the other bots, right, creating a P2P network. So to trade from one bot to the bot master, it is very, very difficult, and if some of it is taken down, other parts of it will still can survive and continue to grow. Right? There is no single point of failure in peer-to-peer model. But the problem is it's very difficult to manage, it's very difficult to control, right? You may lose access to some part of the model. I think Florian will be talking more in detail about some of this, right? Example of P2P botnet is Storm, right? I won't go into details of this. Random mechanisms, theoretical architecture, easy to implement and resilient to discovery, scalable. It won't be able to scale it because it's not what do you call it? It's not useful when it comes to larger network and so on. I don't go into details of this, reeling mechanisms, communication protocol normally is over IRC and HTTP, right? HTTP protocol is widely used because it is open pretty much to all the networks in the world. So it's also easy to deploy. It can also be encrypted, so that the detection of HTTP botnet is very difficult. For example, fast flux network, right? So some of the observable botnet behavior, network-based, host-based, global correlation. So what we are doing as part of this project is to look at network-based and global correlated. So we're trying to correlate traffic that comes from all the entrants and look for behaviors, patterns of botnet. So if you can see a similar pattern in, let's say, BD2, and it has been identified as bot traffic, we can apply the same model to myran, to IDRAN, to President, and so on. So if it happens in myran, we can study it, analyze it, build a model, and apply it to all the other networks. So this is the other aspect of the project that we are working on. So hopefully we'll have some outcome by May, I think. So once again, I'll share the slides. Network-based, host-based, check the computer itself, look for traffic, look for application behavior on the computer, go to task manager and see what's running on your computer. Also do NetStat and see what systems or process that is doing connection outwards that is not supposed to be there, right? And this is what I talked about just now. Evasion techniques, sophistication, botnets allow them to evade antivirus engines, IDS, anomaly-based detection. They use executable packets, like what I mentioned just now. You take an installer, take a malware packet into one executable. Rootkits mostly runs on Linux environment and protocols outage. So those days, IRC used to be a popular platform. Now they are moved to HTTP, VoIP, IPv6, ICMP, and even Skype protocols. If the bots are talking over Skype protocols, how do you suspect that this could be a bot? So there are many other upcoming protocols that are being leveraged by botnet to communicate with each other, right? So there's about, if we talk about Skype, there's about 9 million plus users, average 4 million plus connected. There's no way the firewall can filter this. It's obfuscated. You can build, take a Skype API, embed it to your bot, and it's resilient by design, right? You don't need IP, you just use nicknames, right? So this seems to be some of the current trends how botnet works to evade. So beating evasion techniques, prevention, find C&C servers, destroying them, assuming you're using a centralized approach. Combining traditional detection mechanism with those based on anomaly network behavior. So the best bet to finding if there's bot in your network is to look at the traffic behavior. I think that's the only way we can look at global scale, on a large scale, right? In addition to looking at the malware on the host itself, right? So I think I'll stop here, and maybe if you have any questions, that we can discuss for the next 15-20 minutes, Q&A. Well, unfortunately, I'm not there, otherwise it will be more interactive. Okay, thank you. Any questions? No questions? That means I'm either very clear or lost on that.
Thank you very much for your nice presentation. So the nice presentation, also the nice slide. So how do you think this botnet effect for Bangladesh or India or such regions? What is the measures we need to overcome this, the effect of this in Bangladesh?
Well, the same solution or same question was asked to me, even for Malaysia. I think we need to embed cyber awareness program into our education system from the school level. to teach them what is safety online, what is what do you call it, security online, what you should do, what you should not do, what are the technologies you should put in place. So this is important because education has to be the first line of defense against all this. I don't see any other way going, of better solution to addressing this issue. Even the Malaysian government education ministry is working on a cyber awareness program, which I'm helping with, where we design a curriculum for lower, elementary level, high school level, and tertiary level. Different skill sets, different knowledge, different awareness, so that they become less of a victim. Or if they become a victim, how do they identify that to mitigate this or address this issue? So that is very, very important.
One question is, it's more like to the users to keep themselves safe, or it's definitely related with the technology like firewalls and other equipment we use in the network?
Well, the thing is that most propagation of malware is because of social engineering rather than technological vulnerabilities. Based on a study, about 80% of malware that got into system are through social engineering. Another 20% is by that. Even that is not really a technological issue. It's the lack of knowledge in part of the security and network engineers in configuring a firewall or your servers and so on. When we deploy Linux servers, to make life easy, we'll do chmod 777, right? And then once you're done, we don't harden it back. So most of the issue still falls back to the human element. Lack of knowledge, lack of awareness.
Actually, my question is a little bit more technical. In a peer-to-peer system, botnet system, what happens when the master dies? How do the rest of the bots actually receive the instructions?
Okay, you see, master means the bot master, the person.
The bot master, the computer.
Okay, in a peer-to-peer environment, there is no central entity. Like when you talk about a centralized entity, there is a server where all these bots will they will look for this ID, right? And this the bot master will give instruction to this central server, then all the bots will get instruction from the central server. If this server dies, they have no one to look at anymore. But in a P2P environment, the bot are part of a P2P cluster. They have multiple connection to other peers. So if I don't get feedback from this particular peer, I talk to another peer to get my instruction. They evolve themselves, restructure themselves so that they get information from others with this. So they are more resilient. Not saying that it cannot be taken down. They can be often, but the rate of failure will be much lower. They are a bit more resilient.
Thank you.
I guess no more questions? All good? So you can see my email over there, salwa@usa.my. Interested to discuss more on these topics and other. I'm also looking on IoT security, malware reverse engineering, and few other topics. So if you're interested to discuss about these topics, please drop me an email. We can take it further from there.
Okay, we are end of this session. Thank you very much, Dr. Sivakumar Manikam.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Apologies for not being
So
there.
yeah, no problem. I think you will be in our session in dialogue, in the forum dialogue in the afternoon. If you have time, we are inviting you. Okay? Thank you very much.